Welcome to English 1010 at Brooklyn College. Finally, we can start after much delay. I hope you're all looking forward to it. I certainly am. I am looking forward to meeting all of you as much as that is possible, and I am especially looking forward to working with all of you over the course of this semester. So this will be the first of two videos in our first weekly folder on Blackboard. This one will be mainly an introduction to the course, and I'm going to go over the syllabus as quickly as possible. You'll have to take a quiz on the syllabus, which you will also find in the weekly folder. Every week we'll have a different weekly folder that corresponds to the dates that are scheduled on the syllabus. This class will be partly asynchronous and partly synchronous. When I use the term asynchronous, it means that refers to a class session in which you do the work kind of on your own time. We don't meet in the virtual environment. The virtual classroom in which we will be meeting when we do is called Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. And the term synchronous refers to those class sessions in which we will be meeting all together at the same designated time in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, which if you don't know how to get there already, the other video will show you how to get there. Except for December 8th, which is our final class, Tuesday and Wednesday will be our asynchronous, meaning you do that classwork on your own time. And in the weekly folders, I will be providing you a checklist with a suggested schedule that you should try to stick to. But all the asynchronous assignments are generally going to be due at 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday night. But you should try to pace yourself, and that's why I will give you these checklists with these recommended schedules that you should try to stick to. But more on that later. Right now, I just want to kind of get into the syllabus so you know what to expect from this class. So to show you the syllabus, I'm going to show you my screen. We'll kind of go over it a little bit here. The syllabus will also be provided in the navigation tab in our Blackboard class homepage, which the other video will instruct you how to get to, but hopefully you already know. If you don't know how to use Blackboard on the most basic level, you should reach out to me immediately, because everything we do is going to take place on Blackboard. We're not going to be using Zoom or anything like that unless a crisis happens. Everything is going to be happening on Blackboard. There might be external links to things, or there might be links to external resources, and I'll be emailing you from my Gmail account. But otherwise, we're pretty much centered on Blackboard. So please, please, please make sure that you know how to get into Blackboard and look around it. The other video I'm going to send you, we'll go into that a little bit, but it will go into it with the understanding that you have already some basic knowledge of how to use Blackboard. At any rate, here we go. I'll show you my screen and we'll have a look at the syllabus and look at our syllabus being the kind of roadmap for the course, for the adventure to come. Alrighty then. So you'll see here kind of basic contact information and logistics for the class. That's me. I am Joshua Wright, the instructor. This is English 1010 for fall 2020. The schedule is for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12:45 to 1:35 p.m. is when we would be meeting in person if this was normal times. But again, Tuesday and Wednesday will be asynchronous, meaning we will not actually be meeting within the virtual environment on those days, which also goes for this week. So this week we will not be meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday. This video and the other materials in the weekly folder are your class, basically. So it's up to you to go through these materials on your own and do the assignments like the quiz and set up your avatar. And then finally on Thursday we will actually meet in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, and we'll address any questions you might have and just try to get to know each other a little bit before we really get into the thick of it. And you know, we will be hitting the ground running a little bit. Hopefully it'll smooth out a little, but we're getting started so late that we have to kind of keep the fires burning early on. So be prepared for that. If it's a little hectic at first, it will settle down somewhat. But yeah, we gotta make it worth our while. All right, so my office hours will be in the same place where we have our synchronous class sessions, which is in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, the course room. And you can refer to the other video for more details on that. My office hours are to be determined as of right now because I need to speak with all of you. And you know, I'm not sure what kind of hours you're keeping right now with your regular school and all that. So I haven't set any office hours for this class, but I will within the first week after I get a chance to talk to some of you and get a better idea of what's going on. By the way, this is my first time teaching a BCA class, Brooklyn College Academy, or any kind of early college development. So this is kind of a new experience for me. So if there's things I don't know about, basically, you know, my blind spots are there's things I don't know about the New York City public school system. So bear with me on that. But I will figure them out quickly. Otherwise, let us move on. My email is joshuacwright23@gmail.com. This is where I will be emailing you from. And this is what you should email me. In Blackboard, there is a different email address from me. And if you email me there, I will get it eventually. But it's not the most efficient way to get in touch with me. The email that I have in Blackboard is an old Yahoo account that's filled with clutter. That was my main email address when I started at Brooklyn College a while ago. But because of certain technical issues, I can't change that within the Blackboard system. So just make sure that you make a conscious effort to email me if you want me to get it quickly, especially if it's an urgent matter. This is the email that I use frequently now. I check it often. It's connected to my phone. It's connected to all my devices, my computer, my phone. My only two devices. Those are the only devices I have. But this is what's connected to those. So just make sure that if you want to get in touch with me quickly, you do it there. So the course objectives. The successful completion of this course means that you will be able to critically read, analyze, interpret, and respond to a diverse range of texts and synthesize the results in your own writing. So you'll be able to understand, on the most basic level, what this means is you'll be able to understand what you're reading and how to analyze it and respond to it in a meaningful way and mix it all together, blend it into something new in your own writing. That's your goal. That's what you're really shooting for. An original idea, responding to other ideas that have already been put out there, and incorporating them, but not copying them. Your second course objective is to write formal, persuasive, and coherent response papers and essays with strong theses. We'll be spending a lot of time from the kind of the second third of this class onward talking about theses. We'll be trying to hammer that home the ability to write a good, clear thesis is one of the main goals of this class. And the thesis is basically just a statement of the argument that the paper will follow. It's the blueprint, it's the roadmap, it's the organizing principle of a paper, of an essay, of the argument. You could take it farther. If you're going to write a book, maybe at the end of the semester, you'll feel a strong drive to write a nonfiction book, and you'll need some kind of thesis to organize around. You'll also be able to identify a thesis, whether explicit or implied. Some of the things that we're reading will have an argument that's not clearly stated, but it's still underlying. There's still a clear underlying organizing principle to the work. And then other things that we read, the argument, the organizing principle, the main point of the essay will be clearly stated. You'll need to practice using conventionally correct grammar, punctuation, and spelling. So are conventional, they're established by social roles. Every language is different, and even within the English language, as we talk about it, there are different ways of speaking, different colloquialisms, and different accents, and so on and so forth. But there are kind of guidelines, rules that have been established by the institutions. College being one of those institutions. If you want to succeed within it, you'll need to know how to perform grammatically to a certain level. But in terms of grades, the only way that grammar, punctuation, and spelling are going to have a massive difference in terms of passing or failing are if your grammar, punctuation, and spelling are so problematic that it obstructs the meaning of what you're trying to say. Otherwise, it might be the difference between an A or a B or a B or a C, but you won't fail on account of grammar, punctuation, and spelling issues unless they're so severe that your meaning is clouded. You will also want to edit and revise, taking into careful consideration peer and instructor critiques. Careful consideration of peer and constructor and critiques. So that might mean a lot of things. The main thing, editing and revising, writing is a process. You'll be doing 2 drafts for papers 2 and 3. The first paper that you do, a personal narrative, you'll only be doing 1 draft, meaning you'll be submitting it 1 time. And the only reason for that is because we're crunched for time now that we're starting so late. Is that writing is a process. Good writing really happens through editing and revising. And when you get feedback from me or from your peers, you shouldn't just immediately react accordingly. Think about it. Think about if the feedback that you get is valid. And if it is, then react accordingly. But think for yourself. That's part of the process. You'll want to purposefully incorporate and integrate textual evidence into your writing using MLA documentation. That's kind of an afterthought and to a certain degree. Other than the text on the syllabus, you won't need to seek out much other textual evidence. But as far as you do, if you do at all, you'll need to reference that using MLA documentation. which we'll talk about a bit more down the line as it comes up. Course texts. All readings for this course can be found here. You can follow this URL link. But in the weekly folders, you will also find links for individual readings that are current, and all other materials you will find in the weekly folder. Class structure. So as I said, this class is part asynchronous and part synchronous. If a session is asynchronous, it means that you will be performing the activities of that session outside of a regularly scheduled class time, while making sure to submit all assignments by a respectively designated date and time. And again, that time will more often than not almost always be Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. with a few exceptions, perhaps. For synchronous sessions, we will meet in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra during the scheduled class day and time. So for us, again, that will almost always be Thursday at 12:45 to 1:35 p.m. Except for holidays and conversion weeks. So Brooklyn College does this thing called, they call it conversion weeks, where if there's a holiday or something, a certain day, we have a few of them on our schedule. There's a few Tuesdays, one or two Tuesdays, and I think a Wednesday, where they follow a different day's class schedule. So you'll see it if you look down below at the class schedule, that like a Tuesday follows a Monday schedule, so we don't have a class schedule for that day. But otherwise, except for holidays and conversion weeks, the first 2 weekly sessions will be asynchronous, Tuesday and Wednesday, and the third synchronous. In other words, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, as I just said, will be asynchronous and Thursdays will be synchronous. There is one exception on December 8th, our last day of class. Don't forget, but I also remind you many more times throughout the course of the semester. When you go into the class homepage in Blackboard, you will find a link labeled Weekly Folders. I mentioned this above, but inside there, you will find one folder labeled with the dates for each week of semester. Each folder contains all the assignments, materials, and/or links to the materials for that week, as well as a breakdown of asynchronous and synchronous activity. So the other video will show you how to navigate this more, but just take note now. You will also find a suggested schedule for carrying out the asynchronous missions for that week, as well as a personal checklist for completion. That checklist isn't something you have to turn in, but I strongly advise you to follow it and actually use it and actually literally check the things off, check off the boxes, put a little X in the boxes provided, so that you're sure that you've done everything you need to do. And if you follow that checklist, you should be all right. You should be all right. Additionally, for your continued edification, inspiration, and amusement, the weekly folder will more often than not contain, for the interested and curious, optional supplemental materials related to the themes of that week. So a lot of times I'll put like more often than not, I guess it'll be videos or maybe a link to something in Spotify or something, but it'll be like a poetry reading or a video that I think is either just fun or somehow adds to or elaborates upon the meaning of the content for that week. But that stuff will be optional, and it's just because I think this stuff is really fascinating. It's fun. It's emotional. It's dramatic. There's ups and downs, and I really want so much for you to take an active involvement in it and explore it from different angles. But you know, it's not a poetry class, so like if you get a video with a poetry reading in it, we're not going to be analyzing that or anything. It's just to make it more interesting. But more broadly, this class is organized into 6 sections, each with a different set of goals, a list of which you will receive at the start of each section. These 6 sections are devoted to the following. There's the introduction. We're going to go over the common reader, which is the Nicole Hannah Jones's Introduction to the 1619 Project. If that means nothing to you, don't worry. It will when we get into it. But for right now, don't. If you have no idea what that's referring to, don't worry. We'll talk a lot about it. Then we're going to move into a section having to do with summary, which sounds perhaps more simple than it actually is. And then we're going to move into the real nitty-gritty analysis and argumentation and compare and contrast, in which we'll really be going beyond, or striving at least to go beyond, surface similarities and differences, and exploring the real power of comparing and contrasting different texts. And then finally, we'll end with a bit of exam preparation. I do not know what the nature of the exam is yet. I do not design the exam. Brooklyn College composition department designs the exam, and they're still trying to figure out how they're going to orchestrate that this year. But of course, I will let you know as soon as I know what that will look like and what you need to do. But we'll be spending the end of this class preparing for that. You'll be doing 3 major essays for this class, or 3 major papers, I should say. The first, an essay inspired by the 1619 project, will be 750 to 1,000 words, and that'll be a personal narrative. And the next 2 will, the second one will be an analytical argumentative essay, and the third one will be a compare and contrast essay, which will also be argumentative, but it'll be argumentative based on the compare and contrast method. And those will each be 1,000 to 1,250 words. So except for the first paper, again, the only reason you're not doing a first and second draft for the first paper is because time is just simply not permitting. So for the first paper, you'll be doing 1 draft, 1 submission. But for the next 2, paper number 2 and paper number 3, you will turn in 1 draft before the final draft. So that's 2, we'll call that 2 drafts, because I consider the final submission just another draft. 2 drafts is not really leading to a final draft, really. So you'll be turning in 2 drafts. Remember that, because that's going to be on the quiz. So for paper number 2 and paper number 3, you'll be turning in 2 drafts, which includes those 2 drafts include the final submission. The second draft is the final submission for those papers. But for the first paper, you will only do 1 draft. Essays must be double-spaced and 12-point Times New Roman or similar font, and formatted with 1-inch margins. See below for more information about submission guidelines. You'll be doing, the other kind of major assignments you'll be doing are quizzes, summaries, and discussion boards. Bear in mind, though, that your assignments are not limited to what's on this syllabus. There are other ones that you'll have to pay attention to. The syllabus is the guideline of the overarching main assignments, main themes of this class. This is kind of the spine, but there will be a lot of other stuff added on as we go. So your guideline for the particularities as we get to them will be contained within the weekly folders. So make sure that you refer to the syllabus often for the main ideas that you should be getting out of this class. But for the particulars and the smaller assignments, you should definitely be referring to the weekly folders. And, you know, again, the checklists. I make these checklists for a reason. And if you stick to them and just tick off each box as you do each thing, you'll be fine. But quizzes, summaries, discussion boards, etc. These items account for a large portion of your asynchronous activity and are set up so as to form a succession leading to increasingly deeper levels of analysis and engagement with the text. So each thing kind of builds on each. The quizzes will only be in the beginning of the semester. I'm not a huge fan of quizzes. I try to make them a little bit interesting, maybe throw a joke in here or there, just for a laugh. But that will be obvious. These quizzes are not designed to be a huge obstacle. They're meant to be quite easy if you have done the necessary reading, but they're meant to be a tremendous obstacle if you have not. So these quizzes, these few quizzes that you will do, and they're pretty much designed. Obviously, they're open book. You're doing this. You're going to do the quizzes on your own time. You'll be able to flip back and forth between the different tabs on your computer, your device, and actually look at the essay you're doing the quizzes. But they're designed such that if you're going to be scrolling through the text trying to find the answers, you might as well have just read the thing from the beginning, and it would have just made your life a lot easier. So these quizzes are designed to be easy, but only if you've done the necessary reading, and difficult if you have not. So just do the reading, and the quizzes will be easy. You'll save yourself so much trouble. And the main point of the quizzes is to prepare to write 2 well thought out, structured summaries of 250 to 500 words each, and we'll be talking more about that when we get a bit closer. But from the summaries, we will transition to deeper dives into the texts and themes with the discussion board feature on Blackboard. So again, this is meant to be a progression. We're going to be going deeper. If the summaries are kind of if the quizzes are dipping your toe into the reading, then the summaries are meant to be a swim across the surface of the lake, if you want to think of it that way. And then we're going to start doing deep dives into the bottom of the lake and seeing what lies at the underneath all the water, down in the darkness. What's writhing around in there? And we're gonna be taking those deep dives largely with the discussion board feature. That's going to be the most consistent kind of deeper entanglements with the texts. You'll be doing the major essays, of course, but these are going to be more frequent. And bear this in mind that whenever you do a discussion board, I think pretty much always, I think for all of them, in addition to an original post to the prompt, you will usually, and by usually I mean always, have to respond to 1 or 2 of your peers. So it's usually going to be a minimum of 1. Maybe an instance will arise where it's mandatory that you respond to 2 people. But for right now, plan on 1. But we will discuss this farther, and you will soon receive written instructions and a video tutorial on how to post and respond in discussion boards. So as I said, a uniform final designed by the composition department at Brooklyn College is in development for all 1010 classes. Stay tuned for more details soon. And take note again, but it's worth reiterating. These are only the central graded assignments for this course. There will also be a variety of synchronous exercises and some asynchronous activities that are not listed here, which will feed into your participation grade. In general, your asynchronous missions will revolve around the readings. Synchronous will center largely on writing. So most of the stuff that you do outside of the virtual classroom, the virtual meetups, is going to revolve around the readings, whereas a lot, except for the writing that you'll be doing. But in terms of having like lessons or doing activities about writing, but that are extraneous to the actual writing of papers, that will be happening in the synchronous classes. Some of the asynchronous material will be in preparation for the synchronous sessions, though. These asynchronous components will generally be brief. It will be videos, PowerPoint presentations, and that you might have some level of choice. But make sure you pay close attention to the weekly folders to know when you might have a choice and when you might have to just do everything. So what that means is a lot of times I might deliver the same information via a video and via a PowerPoint and maybe a document or something like that. but you will have the choice whether you want to watch the video or whether you want to do the PowerPoint presentation or whether you want to just read the document. If I'm delivering the same information in multiple different ways, I will make that clear to you, usually with email. Otherwise, I will make it clear to you that you should watch the video and look at the PowerPoint and the document or whatever. Participation and sincerity of effort. In the virtual classroom, participation might take on many forms. For our synchronous sessions, though, I strongly suggest that you use the audio and video components in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. While technical complications are understandable, yet you are expected to participate as fully as any and all available mechanical capabilities allow. At the very least, you can engage through the chat function. At any rate, be aware that lack of participation, especially when performing as part of a group, and we'll be doing a lot of group work, it will be quickly evident that you're not participating if you are not. In efforts to help you more readily engage, though, we will be taking steps to create as human and inviting a virtual classroom as possible, and we will go over and enact some of these steps in the first week or two. A lot of what that's referring to is the kind of assignments, the tasks in the first weekly folder, setting up responding to a discussion board, telling a bit about yourself, creating an avatar, that sort of thing. Attendance is tied in part by your evidence presence in our synchronous sessions in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. You just log in and don't show any evidence that you're actually paying attention. That'll hardly count as being present. That doesn't necessarily mean you'll be marked absent, but at that point, presence and absence is very little. Synchronous classes, the synchronous sessions are pretty much designed around participation. It's a lot of group work. So if you come into a synchronous session and just zone out, you're just kind of wasting. But I don't expect severe lack of participation from any of you. I expect you to be fully engaged, all pistons firing. But you are allowed 2 excused absences from synchronous sessions. And what that means is you can miss 2 synchronous sessions without having to explain to me why you missed, and the work that you missed will be excused. But if you miss more than 2, know that all synchronous sessions will be recorded and a set of review questions will be provided to you to answer after watching the recording should you be absent beyond the 2 excused instances. I'll probably be setting up some kind of other makeup work to do if you miss more than 2. But nonetheless, know that you are allowed 2 excused absences from synchronous sessions. All synchronous sessions will be recorded, and a set of review questions will be provided to you to answer after watching the recording should you be absent beyond the 2 excused instances. It's very likely that I'll be setting up some other kind of makeup activity if you miss more than 2 classes. But for now, plan on doing that, having to watch a video of some length and then having to answer questions in reference to the video. But it's better just to come, as it were, just to show up virtually in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. Also, failure to complete the asynchronous assignments for the week, in addition to the points lost for the missing work, that will also count as an absence. In short, be present in every way possible, as I said. Not only will you reap richer rewards from the class, but the class itself will in turn be especially enriched by the unique contributions that only you can make. And I want you to know that I mean that sincerely. This class means nothing. All the materials, the text that we read, none of it means anything without the substance that you bring to it. And the diversity of understanding, there's more people that we have in this, sincerely and genuinely, the better this class will be. So just be present in every way that you can. And I know we're living in difficult times, strange times, but you should accept that as a challenge, as something to overcome, and try to consider how you can, not only what you can get from this class for yourself, but what you can give to it. All right, submission guidelines. Unless otherwise notified, submit all assignments through Blackboard. You will receive a written set of instructions and a video tutorial on how to do this. And you will generally be able to submit via links in the weekly folders. Submit all papers and drafts as .doc, .docx, or .pdf files only. Do not type your papers and drafts directly into the content field and the assignment page on Blackboard, as this makes feedback annotations difficult. A bit more on that if you watch the other video, but other things like the discussion boards, you'll want to type that directly into the content field, as it says here. Your discussion board posts do not need to be as carefully formatted, and you can write your discussion board posts in the content field provided in Blackboard. So yeah, it's different, right? So for the discussion boards, and this will make more sense when you watch the other video and as you actually get to doing it, but don't make attachments for the discussion boards. Just write it directly into the content field. But please, for the paper and draft submissions, attach it as .doc, .docx, or PDF only. It makes my life a lot easier, and it also allows me to give you more meaningful and complete feedback on your writing. You are allowed one late submission of a paper up to a week late. A 5% penalty to the score for each day that it is late. So you can be late one time, but with a penalty up to 35% reduction, so 5% each day times 7 days a week, that's 35% reduction. Late drafts, so for paper number 2 and paper number 3, when you have to do a first draft and then the second draft, if you turn in the first draft late, you won't really be penalized for that, but you will also not have a lengthened revision time, and that will hurt you in the long run. Asynchronous work will be accepted up to a week late for half credit. So that's asynchronous work, that not counting the drafts or anything like that if it's due on asynchronous day. Asynchronous work refers to quizzes or discussion board posts, that sort of thing, or anything else that might come up as we go. No work will be accepted more than a week late. The purpose of the work in this class is to be part of a process, to be part of a discussion, to be part of a discourse that's continually happening. So if you're more than a week late, you've fallen out of it, and that's a problem. And that's why I won't take work more than a week late. Because if it's more than a week late, you need to just move on to the next thing. It's as simple as that. If it's more than a week late, you've kind of missed the point of doing the work in the first place. So, except for extremely extenuating circumstances, you should do the work according to the schedule. And habitual late submissions will also reduce your overall participation grade. So again, it's kind of a double whammy. Not only do you get point reduction for being late, but it also affects your more ephemeral participation grade. And that's kind of restating what I just said. Every part of this class builds on what precedes it, so always stay up to date to solidly fortify each lesson. This is your grading breakdown. The papers, 10%. Second, look at that a little bit more on your own time. Want to keep this video moving because I think it's going overtime now. A note on grading: C- is the lowest possible passing grade for the course. The English department policy states that a student with a final grade below a C- receiving no credit, NC, no credit. The student may take the course up to 3 times. An F grade will be given in the case of too many absences or failure to complete assignments. So an NC means that the work just isn't up to collegiate par. That it means that I can't, in good conscience, put you forward into a college class operating at the level that you produce, but that you seem to be showing potential to reach that point. And it means that you failed because you didn't do all the work. You didn't get enough points because you haven't done the work, or you've just missed too much. A grade of NC may be given if the student's work is not, that's what I just said, if the student's work is not at a passing level, but the student has good attendance and has completed all assignments. An F, though, a student's receiving an F or an NC grade, if you get that, you have to retake English 1010. And you may take English 1010 up to 3 times. The difference is that a no credit does not hurt your GPA. An F does hurt your GPA. So both of them mean you can retake the course, but an NC doesn't have any long-lasting effects, whereas an F has some repercussions beyond just having to retake the course. There's your grading scale, pretty standard for all of Brooklyn College. Some logistical stuff down here. If you have religious beliefs that interfere with attending a certain class session, know what your rights are, but also, I'm an understanding person, so just let me know. If you're going to miss a class because of religious beliefs, I'm completely understanding about that, and I certainly won't hold that against you. But I will be a bit irked if you miss class and don't tell me why. So just let me know. That's it. Plagiarism, to say it simply, don't do it. I will not tolerate it. It's not tolerated at Brooklyn College, and not in this class, definitely. And if you're caught handing in work that I've plagiarized from any source, and please know that when I write this here, this is true. It's very easy to spot plagiarism. You will be found out. So, don't muck up what you're trying to do here by plagiarizing. That's the most foolish thing you can do in college, at least academically. But if you plagiarize, you will fail the assignment in question. If I catch you plagiarizing, I will absolutely give you a 0 for that assignment. You might fail the entire class, which is what I would. If you're caught handing in work that you have plagiarized from any source, then please know that it is easy to spot plagiarism. It will be found out. I don't expect that to be a problem in this class, but if for some reason you're feeling a bit overwhelmed and you decide you want to try to steal from somebody else's mind, somebody else's hard labor, know that will be caught. That will be found out. You will fail the assignment. You'll get a 0 on that assignment. Possibly the entire class. It will certainly be an uphill battle from there. If you get caught plagiarizing, you're gonna have to really struggle to pass. And you may be subject to disciplinary action by the college. You will be reported to the college, sure. So if you have any future plans at Brooklyn College, that would be held against you. I'm required to report that. So just don't do it. It's a silly thing to do in college. So just don't do it. And I hope that's all we have to say about that. student bereavement policy, this kind of goes without saying. If something terrible happens to somebody that is dear to you, then we'll cross that bridge if we come to it, but I hope we don't come to it. My office hours, I warmly welcome you to visit me during my virtual office hours. Again, I haven't decided what those will be for this class because I need to talk to you first. But you are welcome to come. I encourage you to stop by virtually. Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, and talk to me about your work or anything you want to talk about. If you just need to let off some steam about something, I'm there too for that. Otherwise, if you can't come to my regularly scheduled office hour, I will try to find a time to meet you that's more convenient for both of us. Tech support, as we're doing all online classes, this can be a valuable resource. Brooklyn College's Information Technology Service can help you can help with any tech or Blackboard related issues. You see that there. You can email them or call that number during those hours. The Learning Center, which is normally in 1300 Boylan, which is a room number you should remember for future reference, but it has writing tutors available to help you with your writing, and I highly recommend that you use them as a resource. They can give you a bit of additional feedback on your writing, maybe a grammatical edit if that's what you're looking for. But you can contact them via this link, copy and paste that and put it in your browser, and they'll take you right there. But yeah, check them out. I mean, we'll talk more about how I grade and give you feedback later, but I don't do like in-depth like grammatical edits. So that could be a valuable resource for you. If you have any kind of learning disability or you need some kind of accommodation, please let me know. If you're registered, this is for you and me. I mean, obviously if you need an accommodation, it's in your best interest to let me know. But also, I've had at least one student in the past who was registered with the Center for Student Disabilities, and I didn't know that. And when the final came, she didn't show up. I went into a panic because she was one of my best students in that session, in that class. But she didn't show up to the final, so I went into a whirlwind of worry. Finally got in touch and found out that she went to a special sitting of the final, and that's why she wasn't there. But there's no reason not to let me know about this. Please let me know ASAP if this concerns you. And some immigration issues, if you're dealing with anything like that, they can help you. And finally, I will be setting up a community discussion board to try to compensate for the lack of sociability that arises with the virtual classroom. I want this to be a very warm and inviting environment as much as possible. So I'll be setting up a community discussion board, basically for you to talk about whatever you want, purely optional. Hey, it's a place for you to shoot the shit, basically, just to talk to each other about whatever you want. It's meant to take the place of the spaces kind of directly before and directly after getting together for a physical class, when you would be sitting down at your desks and twiddling your thumbs and just kind of making small talk. We can't really do that now, so in lieu of that, I'll be setting up a community discussion board. More on that later. Otherwise, go through this schedule, this class schedule. It has all the readings, the general outline of the major assignments, but know that this schedule constitutes an outline of the primary assignments, themes, and readings only. So this has the essays, the discussion boards, the quizzes, the summaries. But please consult the weekly folders complete materials assignments and section objectives, because there will be a lot more minor assignments that you'll have to complete asynchronously and synchronously. So make sure you use the weekly folders and the checklist therein as your true guide. But this gives you a nice abstract. However, I'm not going to go through the whole class schedule now in this video, because I'm trying to keep it as brief as possible, and it's already quite long, I think. So go through these, just go through it, find out what to expect, and jot down any questions you have, so that when we meet on Thursday for our first synchronous session, you'll have some questions ready to go. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and complete understanding of everything, especially since, as I said, we have to kind of hit the ground running. I want to make sure that everything can happen as smoothly as possible. I really look forward to getting to know all of you a bit more as far as the technology allows us to. I look forward to working with you and reading your writing and exploring this new textual terrain with you. Please watch the other video and refer to the weekly folder for more information and the email. Until then, be well.